Morning. This episode of Tales from the Hoodie is the final episode in the series. And the Hoodie is not big and glamorous and all that. It's a simple Nautica zip-up hoodie. And I like it because it brings me to where I remember all the different times I traveled in Europe. And in itself, that sounds like boring. I mean, unless you've never been to Europe, then it's pretty cool. But they were some of the craziest times in my life. I tried to, I traveled anywhere, everywhere, even when I was young. I mean, I ran away, when I was like 13 or something. That's traveling, I guess. I went from California. I got all the way to Albuquerque, New Mexico before I got busted and sent back to California. But, my mom worked all the time, and she knew we could all probably pretty much take care of ourselves, seeing how we've been through a lot of turmoil anyway. But it wouldn't be uncommon that even when I was a young teenager, I would, hitchhike to the next city or something like that, go see a friend or something, spend the night. I'd sleep rough, they call it in the UK, I guess. Me, I'd sleep in, anywhere. I mean, I remember sleeping one night under the bushes, like I was a hedge line around a park. And it was, up all night, my friends weren't around, whatever. It was, I was probably, 60 miles from home, and I got some newspapers like a normal kind of homeless person, I guess. Stuffed them in my sleeves and stuff like that. I just slept underneath the hedges. And I remember waking up in the early morning by some lady who was walking, her and her friend were walking their dogs or whatever. They're like, "It's a little boy," I remember them saying that. I'm like, "Well, nah, I'm all right. Nah, it's cool." There were other times I would hitchhike, and I remember going, where was I? San Diego or something. They had apartment buildings, and apartment buildings had carports, kind of like the one we just built here, but in the back of the carport there'd be like a storage thing above it. Like where you could open up the door. Like usually you had your car, then you had these two doors that you could open up and put all your shit in there, and then, lock it up or whatever, because, for storage. And I'd climb up in there, in amongst people's storage or whatever, and I'd sleep up there for the night. Then I'd get out in the day, hang out on the beach or wherever it was I was doing. But anyway, I just had that nomadic kind of thing embedded, so every time as soon as I got to of age where I could make some money, which was I think mostly right before college and all that, I would take off and I'd go somewhere. Right after high school I didn't really go to college, but I was working on the beach and all that, and so go to Hawaii and take these pleasant Hawaiian holiday tours and stuff like that, and have just go anywhere I could, And I know as kids and with my mom said we traveled a lot anyway. We were going from Florida to New York to Florida, Florida to Indiana, Indiana to California, California to Florida. I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's crazy. But when I got into college, I had scholarship money, and I had grant money, and of course working under the table and all that stuff. So with this money, although it wasn't a lot, I would save it so that during my Christmas break I'd go somewhere, Tahiti or where, I don't know, spring break, go somewhere, and then summer break a lot of times would go to Europe, because at that time, I mean, it's probably still the same, but you could buy a ticket, a Eurail ticket, a Flexi Pass, which gave you a certain amount of days within a certain amount of days of travel within a certain amount of days. Because a Eurail Pass normally was you had to pick the days that you were going to be on the train. And And if you weren't on the train on those days, then you lost that portion of your ticket. And if you're on a train on a day you weren't supposed to be on the train, you were going to get a serious fine and probably kicked off the train. So I'd always buy a flexi pass, meant I could just get on the train whenever I felt like it, and I would write in that date. And that date you would write in was good for 24 hours. So the best thing, if you could plan it right, you would actually get on the train, you know, at night, or whatever, 8 or 9 o'clock at night or something like that, and you wouldn't write the date in until it passed midnight, and then you would write the date of, you know, the next day. That way you would have a whole another day worth of train travel. And just hope that the conductor wasn't coming by to check your ticket, which they always did. But, you know, usually you can sneak it in there a couple times. And I would usually only get like either a 7 or a 14 day, because on a 7-day Euro pass, I could turn that into a month, no problem. I just spend, you know, a week at some beach location or whatever, or a week, you know, in some other city or whatever, going around to different hostels and sleeping in, you know, youth hostels or group hostels where you had 6 or 8 people to a room. I forget what year it was, but I remember the economy wasn't real good in Europe or something, and some of these really nice hotels were suddenly saying, you know, we're not renting out, we're not able to rent out these suites, you know, family suites and stuff like that. So they pulled the beds out, or most of them, whatever, and they put other beds in there, and they made it so where there would be like, you know, you could sleep 15 people, whatever, in a hotel suite. And you would just go in there and it'd be like a giant bedroom, but that bedroom was now designed where it had like 6 beds in it, whatever. And you would just, but you're paying for the bed, so it was still cheap. It was like $12 or something crazy. But that's how they would make their money. So it was a really good year that year, because you got to stay in a lot of nice places. Your typical youth hostel, of course, was, you know, wooden bunk beds and spaghetti for meals and stuff. But it was still pretty cool, because I love traveling. And you know, there's nothing, I think, more educating than leaving your home country and going to another country and traveling. Just travel. You know, as a school administrator for many years, I mean, the whole education in the field of it, or the whole career in the field of education that I had, I was always an advocate of student travel. I always felt like, you know, it should be mandatory that every kid in high school, I don't care when you do it, freshman year, sophomore, junior, senior, but that every student in high school should have at least 1 semester abroad, like student exchange. Go learn high school in Korea or whatever, or in Japan, or in Spain, or I don't care where you do it. Go spend a whole semester, half a school year, term in abroad, even if you've never traveled, even if you've never traveled out of your state. Go do that, because that right there, boom, will change your life, and it'll certainly change your grades. I'll guarantee it. It'll change your grades for the better. And that's just my opinion. But this Nautica hoodie, you know, Nautica is a big I guess it's probably primarily kind of born out of a sailing adventures by the ownership, and so that's their whole theme, is a lot of Nautica. They made a lot of deck shoes, which were very popular back in the day. They're still popular, I suppose, today amongst the people who have yachts and all that stuff, sailboats and stuff, because these deck shoes, just like Sperry topsiders, you know, they would grip in the wet on the top of your deck and stuff like that. So they're quite often good shoes to have. But yeah, the European adventures. Let me start by sharing a story about when I first took my wife, because I had been, you know, this well-seasoned European traveler or whatever. After I met my wife, I don't know if we were married yet. Maybe that was our honeymoon or something. I don't know. But the first time I took my wife to Europe. We were still kind of in the backpacking mode. Although, you know, it was my wife, so I knew I was going to probably try and stay in some hotels, you know. Didn't want to necessarily put her through all that backpacking stuff. And this would have been the first time she carried a backpack through Europe. Like a backpack with all your stuff in it. But she did it, man. She trooped right through there. Right out of the, you know, the villages of Thailand, the factories of Saipan. And then boom, you're a European traveler. So I was pretty amazed at that. Although she struggled with food until she got to Italy for the pizza. That was pretty good. But there was an event where we had gotten to, I think we were already coming back or something from East Europe or something, and we got out at the train station at Gare du Nord, which was like the north train station in Paris. And I think we're running out of daylight or something like that, so we decided just to real quick try and find a hotel room like right there at the station. And so we did that. I think we went and had lunch somewhere, and then we went to like a pub, you know, where you sit outside and all that. And then there was a little sign that said, you know, room to let or whatever, something like that. Like room for rent, or basically it was saying they had rooms. And so I inquired, and they said, yeah, well, you know, you can stay. You have basically a little hotel, you know, rooms. So we go up the tiny stairs. It was just second floor room. Had one of those little French balconies, you know, where the windows open to a garden view, kind of, not a balcony, but you know, a thing around your window. And we opened it up, and you could look down into the streets of, you know, this portion of Paris. I forget what the city was, but it was cool. We're like, oh, good. We're exhausted, you know. And so we went to sleep, or you know, we're taking a nap. And I at the time I did have a video recorder, and I think I had already video recorded like inside the room when we first got there. We're like, hey, yeah, you know, Paris, blah, blah, blah. And then we're kind of passing out, and then kind of we heard a bunch of commotion kind of coming from outside the window, and so I got up and I took my video camera, and I was like just kind of walking over to investigate whatever, what's going on, you know, party, what's up. And all of a sudden, massive explosion. It shook the building we were in. I went about, whoa, and then I ran to the window and I put the camera out there just for the, you know, you could see like the kind of like a mushroom cloud or whatever. And right down below us, like right below our window. Remember, we're on the second floor, so right there on the first floor was actually the bus stop, one of those like covered bus stops. And all of a sudden I saw, like, you know, there must have been 20 of these carabinieri, you know, the Italian or the French police. Oh no, that would be Italian, but yeah, anyway, the French police, they're all running around with Uzis and stuff. And the guy looks up at me, you know, because I'm right there or whatever. And he looks up at me and he yells at me in French, you know, get back inside. I'm like, oh, sorry, bro. So, you know, I closed the window, went inside or whatever, but I waited, you know, I think I was peeking out the window. And my wife was like going, what in the hell, you know, you take me to Europe, you get me blown up or whatever. But it turns out what it was, you know, this is around a train station, so obviously the police and security and stuff are high, even back then. And, but there was a backpack, or duffel bag, sitting next to the bus stop, you know, unaccompanied. So they thought, you know, it could be a bomb, so they sent in a robot or whatever. They put the big bomb thing over the bag and then detonated whatever was in the bag. You know, they're the ones that made the bomb. blow up or whatever, you know. And so when they took it off, so that was the police that made the, and then so when they took it off, you know, it turns out to be some college student's book bag that he left, and when he got on the bus or whatever. So there's like shredded books, you know. And they're like, oh well, you know, false alarm, but you know, and so then they all disappeared and took off, you know. There's hurry up, got back to wherever they're doing. And I opened the window, and that's when I opened the window, and you know, I looked out and I saw the bag was still there, and there's paper everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God, I knew what happened. They blew that thing up, and it was just books and stuff. So that student's probably gonna be bummed. But it was pretty spooky. I mean, we were like, whoa, but it's cool because I got a lot of it on video, you know. And I wanted to videotape our European adventure, you know, our first adventure together. And so, yeah, we continued. I forget where we went after that, but of course we did I was taking my wife to Europe, right? So we went everywhere. And one of the places, another adventure, crazy thing that happened was, and that's what kind of mostly where I get this hoodie from in terms of my memory, was we were going, we were getting married in Bangkok, and then we knew that we were going to go to Europe, so we weren't actually married yet, but I had already gotten a U.S. visa for my wife. I think a 1 year, or maybe it was a 10-year tourist visa. And with that, we went to the French embassy, where you would get a Euro visa, so you can travel all around Europe on the one visa. And then we got the Euro visa, and so that was cool. And so I think we were coming from Italy, and then because we had flown out we went to Spain. We flew out to the island of Menorca to see my friends that I knew from college, stay with them for a while, and then we were going back up, and we took off, and we were going through I think past the Italian coast, and I think we went to I think we were going to go to Germany, but we had to go through Austria and then Switzerland and then over to Germany. And we got on the train, and when we go through the Austrian Alps or whatever and into Switzerland, we had a sleeper car, so we were in bunk beds. There's 4 of them. There's 2 on the opposite side of you, and then there's 2 on this side. So Dot and I took the bottom one, Dot was on the top one, mostly for safety. And in the middle of the night usually, or whenever, actually whenever you cross borders, I should probably say that, there's a changing of the guard, so to speak, and so the conductors will come in and check your tickets again. We have flexi passes, so I wouldn't worry about it. And the guy comes in, check tickets, and we check the tickets and give her passports. At the time, Dot had her Thai passport, and turns out that I negated to remember or whatever. I probably didn't need to remember because I didn't understand that. Whatever I didn't think was that. Remember, and it's the same today. Switzerland is not in the Euro plan or whatever. So that meant that even though my Euro visa was good, I did not have a visa for Dot for Switzerland. And so as soon as the guy saw there was no visa, he was a Gestapo. And it was like 2 in the morning or something, and I'm like, what? Dude, what are you talking about? She's got a 10-year, U.S. visa here. She's got a Euro visa. She can travel everywhere. It was an honest mistake, man. Where do we pay or whatever? And so, but they made a full-on production of it, man. That train, or no, they called the train, the other train cops or whatever, and they came and they took us out of our room. We got our bags. They took us both out, walked us to like in between the trains or whatever, And we had to stand there and wait with them in between the trains, just stand there. I mean, they didn't want to wait in the car with us or whatever. But and until we got to the next stop. And when we got to the next stop, they escorted us off the train, and waiting for us was like 3 guys with Uzis. You know, like police, and we got off, and you know, everybody in there looking at us, you know, like we're criminals or something. I'm like, bro, what's up? So they took us back to, right there, that was the border. They actually, when we got off the next stop, they made us go on to the other platform, right, and go back to the border of Austria. And so we got out at the border, and then there were people there, whatever, and there was a guy for the visas and stuff, whatever, and we had to go in, sit in an interview, and tell them what we did and all that. And, hey, you know, I was doing the hey, you know, and so we paid, I think, I don't know what it was, $200 or $300. It was close to $200 or $300 for the visa and the fine or whatever. And then, you know, in a few hours, whatever, and then she got the visa. And but that's right. I remember when they got us off, when they got to the next stop. And they got us off the train, the police, you know, the police with the Uzis were standing right there, and they are the ones who walked us to the other platform, and they stayed right there with us the whole time. You know, these 2 guys, me and my wife sitting there we're standing there with our backpacks at our feet, and these cops around us, you know, and just doing their thing, and everybody else on the platform going, And I was like, dude, we just got blowed up in Paris, and now we're getting held up in Switzerland, and then, you know, like I say, went back to the border, got the visa and stuff. By now, it was hours had passed. You know, we were on schedule, man. We're doing Europe. We had on schedule, and so it was like, so then we got back on that same train route or whatever. And one of the things that turned out to be a benefit was that, or a positive, I should say, was that when they forced us to get out of the train at that next stop was I think it was Lugano, Switzerland. We were high on a platform, and there was this trolley that took you all the way down to a coastal village and a lake in the Alps, kind of there. Gorgeous. And so we're looking, going, dang, man. And so when we got back on the train, we thought, you know what, let's stop back at that place where we got busted. So we stopped at that place and took the train down there and walked around. It was really cool. We wound up getting the hotel. We spent the night there. We rented a boat and took it out on the lake by ourselves, and it was cheap too. The guys were like, yeah, what a boat. You know, it was a nice little Bayliner kind of day boat, and it didn't cost much. It was like $30 probably for a few hours. And we went around. It was just the best day ever. It turned a horrible, kind of scary situation into a nice ride. And so we decided, you know, hey man, we got to come back here one day. And I think we did. I don't remember what year it was. But yeah, very, very, very cool and very, very scary. But we had gotten, I remember, back on the train, and I forget where it was. Oh no, it was definitely Germany. Yeah, Germany we were going to go to Amsterdam, and there was a, you know, huge immigrant population. I mean, everybody, even this is whatever, 20 years ago or something, you know, you still had immigration issues, which that's why when I see these in the news today and stuff, I'm like, it's nothing new. But anyway, so the conductor guys on the trains, you know, they'd be on the lookout for these guys. And I remember there wasn't a lot of room on the train, but if you wanted to smoke or smoke pot or something like that, which I think I was probably smoking pot back then, you go in between the trains, right, where the wind kind of blows, and usually there's somebody sitting on their suitcase or something like that, because there's maybe no seats, you know. And there's also there might be 3, 4, 5 or a dozen different guys that are in the country illegally and using the train without a ticket. So they try and play hopscotch and avoid the conductors. But in this case, we were in a car where at the end of our car was the restroom. You know, just a little airport kind of, or an airplane restroom almost, but probably even smaller than an airplane, if you can believe that. And they busted these guys. They busted these two guys. They were like yelling, and I don't even know what language. Maybe it was German. And they brought them back, and they unlocked they opened the bathroom, and they shoved them. I mean, literally crammed the two guys in there, and closed and locked that door. Like, you're staying there until we get to the next stop or whatever. And these aren't like air conditioning rooms or whatever, and this was the summer. But as we stood there, we're like, whoa, you know, and some guys smoking hash or something sitting on their suitcase. Really old man and a couple young kids. And and then within about 5 minutes, here come the conductor with two other guys. And he opens the door and he shoves those two guys in. And they got four guys in a bathroom that's probably designed for one person. Or two small, skinny people. And so, I mean, he just literally like shoulder pushing them in there. I think they might even got one more in there or whatever. It was comical and traumatic at the same time. And but they got to the next stop, and you know, I think we were still right there because I do remember them unlocking the door and pushing all those guys, literally almost pushing them off of the train onto the platform where the cops were waiting to take them all into custody. But well, there was another stop that we got off at, I think more towards the eastern side, where there was, and we would walk the platform, you know, where the train car, one of the cars in our train that was towards the rear, or maybe the last train car, or no, maybe it was a train that pulled in and it was their last train car. So the train car was there, and that train car was full of children. I kid you not, it was all kids. And these were all immigrant kids. You could tell they were fleeing like a war-torn country or something like that. They all had that you know, Norman Rockwell look out the window like, God save me, you know. And they were all in that car, dead silent. Nobody talking. They're just like trauma, you know. It's like, dang, I couldn't imagine what they had gone through or where they were coming from, but you know, it was all wrapped up in that whole experience. But crazy, man, crazy. You know, so my wife already had quite a heck of experience, but we weren't done yet. We were in Spain, in Barcelona, and this is before we were actually going to take a train out of we had stayed in Spain and done stuff, and then we were going to get on the train that morning and go to the airport to take the small plane. Oh, there you go. To take the small plane out to the island of Menorca. We could have took a ferry, but the ferry was like 12 hours or some crazy thing. It was only like $100 to fly, so we would fly. And but you know, we're outside there, so we're waiting. You know, the train was going to be a while, so we're outside, and there was like this. It used to be an industrial city there by the train station, but they had since, you know, it was all closed or whatever, but they had turned these big industrial stacks and stuff into art. So there's a lot of artsy kind of thing around the train station, very beautiful. And so we thought we'd go out and take some pictures, and we were doing video, of course. So I set up the tripod. It was a little bit off of an intersection. Set off the tripod, and was taking, you know, we were taking photos of ourselves or whatever, and just regular camera photos. And then I remember, you know, this guy had come. We were looking at the camera and like this, and the guy had said, you know, hey, you know, you want me to take your picture? Which is very common, right? You're always like, hey, you want me to take your picture? You too, you know. And although I didn't really need him to because I had the tripod, I was like, oh yeah, sure, you know. So we were, you know, we both kind of walked away. He gave him our camera. We walked away, and just right there, and turned around, and I remember he had said, oh, back up a little bit. And so we backed up, and we didn't think nothing of it until we heard someone shout, like, probably shouting in Spanish or something, which caused us to look. And what happened was, this is a total setup, and that's why I always shared with people this scam when you're traveling. So what he did was he stepped in front of our backpack, so we kind of obscured the view of it to take our picture. And while he was doing that, another accomplice was walking by, and he was just going to bend down, snatch up the backpack, and keep walking. And as he bent down to snatch up the backpack, another, Spanish guy, an older gentleman, saw that happening and yelled at the guy, "Hey, what are they? That's not yours," or something like that, And it caused us what? So we walked up, walked straight back. Didn't know this at the time, but we walked straight back to the guy. We knew somebody was going to try and steal our stuff, but we didn't know that the camera guy was part of it. And so we're like, oh, and the guy goes, "Oh, here's your camera," like, "Oh, thank you." And then I think the man was still there at the intersection. He was like, "Hey, you got to watch your stuff." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I think." Whoa, man! Somebody almost stole our bag, And because at that time I think we had put locked our backpacks in the train station, so we only had a day pack. And I was like, whoa. And then I just happened to turn. I looked up at the guy who was taking the camera, which was walking away from us, and I saw him kind of look back a couple of times, kind of suspiciously. I was like, what? So I busted out my video camera, and I pretended that we were just going to take more pictures, and I zoomed in on that guy, and I watched him, and sure enough, he was looking back at us 2 or 3 times very suspiciously. And then there's a tunnel that goes underneath the park and then out the other side of the park. So I saw him go in that tunnel, and I saw him come out, and I've still videotaped him because I could zoom in way over there. And he did keep looking over there. But then I watched him come over, and I think Dot at the time was like, "Hey man, let's go. It's kind of creepy around here," or whatever. So I was like, yeah. So what we did was we walked across, kind of cat-a-corner to that station, and we sat on an outdoor cafe, had espresso, whatever, a little sandwich, and then I could look across still at the park. And then I wound up taking my camera and I set it on the table and zoomed in, with the viewfinder. I zoomed in on that guy, and he winds up meeting up with like 4 or 5 other guys, an older guy too, and they're all hanging out kind of over this wall, like, this bridge wall kind of. And I realized they're just like a gang, and one of the gang comes walking up, with a backpack, like, "Hey, I got one," or whatever. And so the older guy grabs the backpack because he's the leader or whatever, and he opens it up and he's looking. He takes it like a passport, puts it in the thing, and gives something to this guy, gives something to that guy, like that, whatever, and the money or whatever. And I'm like, dang man, that's like these guys are just raiding everybody. How many backpacks have they stolen that day? It was crazy. I was like, man. So I couldn't believe that. I had it all on tape though, man. This is going to be a full-on European adventure tape. And then it was time to get going, so we went to go closer, or went into the train station, sat down. And I think we're still probably maybe 45 minutes or an hour outside of the train coming, but we were inside. And maybe it was cooler in there, I don't remember. But then I remember looking across the train station lobby there or whatever, and sure enough, the police had that old man that was taken. They had that old man in custody, and he was sitting. I saw him walking him in. I'm like, "Oh, hey, that's that dude." And they sat him down outside in the seats, and the guys went in their office and blah blah blah. And so then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go over there. And of course, my wife's like, "No." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go over there." And then so I took my video camera and I went over there, and I walked inside, and I can speak a little Spanish. So at the time I had said, "That motherfucker right there tried to rip us off." Excuse my language. but I'll probably have to delete that. That guy, that guy right there tried to rip us off. And they're like, yeah? And I go, yeah, check this out. So I showed them the video of the whole thing, of the guy walking, looking back and stuff, and then meeting up with his friends, and then going through a backpack and all that stuff. So they went out there and snatched the guy up, and they searched him, and he had like 3 or 4 or 5 different passports on him and stuff, and all this, and they're like, oh my God. And so they call like the boss from upstairs, like, come on, you got to see this. So he comes down, we look at the video again, he's all, oh, they're all laughing and going, yeah, dude, that guy. And they're like, hey, can we have the tape, you know? And I was like, ooh, that's my European adventure tape. I go, do you have a video camera? You can video my video, whatever. And they're all like, you know what? Never mind. We saw it, so that's enough evidence or whatever. We all saw it here, you know? So I'm like, all right, cool. So then I look at the guy, I'm like, of course, that guy the old man never knew me because he never saw me. But he probably knew I was one of his crew's victims or whatever, or we were, almost. And so, anyway, we got out of there. We went on to, out to Menorca and had a freaking awesome time. And I would go back to Menorca a few times, one time with one of my best friends. Great, great European adventures. I think with my wife, that trip just kept getting more entertaining. You know, it was really cool. We got lost. I think it was funny. We were on, you know, everybody, you go to Italy, you know, and the Colosseum, and oh man, you got to do that on a Vespa. And you got to have a Vespa so you can both go down. So of course we rented a Vespa to do that, and that's the crazy place because the Colosseum, remember this was built whatever 2,000 years ago or something like that, and villages sprung up around the Colosseum. So roads were all random, and those roads continue to be random today. So spreading out from the Colosseum, it's just a maze of interconnected short little roads all around until you get to the bigger, more developed roads. And but that's what makes it kind of cool. But at the same time, you're definitely getting lost. So you'll be going through a maze like a cornfield or whatever. And I forget what we were trying to find, but we wound up coming out into the we were lost, and we came out into the piazza or whatever, the little opening where there was some street performers and this and that, and that's where the Fountain de Trevi, you know, that famous Fountain de Trevi where the water fountain is. And they say if you throw a coin in there, or if you throw 1 coin, you fall in love, and 2 coins, you get married or something, and 3 coins, you come back or something like that. So we're like, oh my God, this is the Fountain de Trevi. And so it was really cool. We got to see that. Of course, we're trying to see everything, you know, in Europe, everything of significance. I was trying to show my wife everything and give her this European history lesson, I suppose, at the same time. But it was crazy, man. There were times when if I wasn't with my wife, anything before, like when I was with my friends or some other people that were traveling, we had all kinds of adventures. One year I took oh no, that's right. I was with my friend Steve, and we had done Europe, and we were actually on the island of Menorca, and we met a couple of people that you know, it's like everybody was eating together. A lot of these Italian people, and they're from a small village up in northern Italy, and we later we would we would meet them, and hey, how you doing, and we saw them on the train later. Anyway, it was a really great adventure. But I would go back by myself one year and take, I think it was a bus up to that northern village, and where they lived. You had to go past through the Ferrari factories, so you could look over the mountains and these rolling hills, and all you saw was black and red Ferraris, like 1,000 of them. You know, it's one of those places where the mailman drives a Ferrari. Very cool.
and Sestola was the name of the village. And I had rented a car, and a little Fiat. It was like brand new. It's pretty cool, from Avis, and raced all the way up there and had a great time. I was out, and we were out drinking. I was at a disco, like all-nighter, and but I got scammed because I was in disco with some guys, not maybe one of the guys that we had known from the vacation in Menorca, but I had a really nice jacket because it was winter. My winter break, I think I took off over there, and my passport was in my jacket. And so and then when you went into this you know, the disco, whatever it was, the club, it was coat check. So you get in, you give your coat to the coat guy, he gives you a ticket, and then you go on or whatever. And so closed the night. It was 2 or 3 in the morning, whatever. Went out, and I went to get my coat, and the coat wasn't there. I go, dude, my coat, my ticket. He's all, oh, no, your friends came and got all the coats. You know, you're like my friend came at the same time. I'm like, what? And it wasn't my friends. It was these guy and girl and somebody else that we were drinking with in the club. And so they basically stole my jacket. And so I had to go out. It was freezing, but I went to where my friends lived, and you know, I slept there or whatever. And in the morning, I got up, went back to the club, like, dude, you guys had my jacket, and I dead in the water. Shit. And then I had my keys to my rental car. So I was like, and so my friend Mario, I think it was, so no problem, I'll drive you back all the way down the mountain into Bologna to the rental car place. And I'm like, all right. So he drove me back down there, and I drove. I explained, oh, actually, you know, I had to, that day before he drove me down there, I had to go to the police station, get a police report. Had a battery issue right there. Where was I? Yeah, so I had swapped out that new rental car. Or no, that's right, I think I had a regular rental car, and then when I swapped it, they gave me that brand new Fiat. Even though I didn't, actually my wallet was there, so I didn't even have my driver's license, but I was like, you already have a copy of it, whatever. I think I have my international license or something. But anyway, so I got the car, and then I thought, you know, wait a minute, that's right, this was like New Year's Eve. They were, the group of people up there in that village in Sestola were going to have a New Year's Eve party. They rented out basically an old historic castle on the hill in the village. It's one of those villages where if you drove a car, you parked down there, and then a trolley took you up because there's no cars in the village itself, right? They want to keep it all cobblestone or whatever, and then you go farther all the way up this hill, and there's an old, you know, like, what do they call that, a motte and bailey or something, you know, it's just a mound with the big castle kind of on the top. So they were able to get permission, and they decorated like the dungeon and, you know, all this stuff, and have a bar and band or DJ or whatever. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to that party. So I drove all the way back from Bologna up to Sestola, and I was, you know, new Fiat, man, so I was wah, wah. And then the road's like this all the way up on the one side, and I was hauling butt, going all the way up, and then, you know, I passed a couple people, and then I just happened to look down the mountain at the winding road to see, you know, other cars or whatever like that. When I did that, I looked up, and the turn was already going back this way, and I just launched with the car, boom, and then nosedived into, you know, like cow field or whatever, just boom, and it was a little bit of a ditch, you know, and I was like, oh my God, and I think I had, you know, slammed myself between my arm and the steering wheel, and it was just crushing pain. I don't think I broke anything, but I was in major, had to try and get out of there. So I get out of there, but I'm like, well, I got to do something. So I actually wound up getting the car jack out of there, and I used the car jack to dig the dirt around so the car would like fall, because one of the wheels was hanging over an open area and stuff, front wheel drive, right? And I was able to miraculously dig myself out and just and get the car out. And when I got out on the road, I realized that it was the fender was bent so much that I couldn't turn the wheel other than like about that much. So I had to do like an 80-point turn to get going up the mountain. And as luck would have it, just a little bit ways up the straight part where I could go, I saw a guy working on his garage and like a little bit down the hill, because all the houses are on a hill, but there's not too many. And this guy was actually kind of a garage, like where he worked on cars. Like, whoa! So I pulled up on the road and I walked down there, and I forget what I said, but I didn't know the word for hammer. I just wanted a hammer to maybe bend the metal away from the tire. Anyway, he was like, maleta or whatever. So I showed him and he goes, oh man. And so I took a sledgehammer and I beat the crap out of it and got it away from the wheel so I could turn the wheel, you know. I was like, all right, I'm on my way. And I took off and I got back to everybody's moving up the hill to the party already. And I parked and I'm like, and I'm walking up there, barely making it, because I'm definitely I probably should have went to the hospital. But I was like, party. And then my friends, a couple of them saw me on the walkway, so I stopped, like the stairs and all this. I stopped because I do what happened? What are we doing? I go, dude, I ran into the car and I crashed in the field and like that. And they were like, oh my God, you need to go to the hospital. And I'm like, no, it's okay. Just rest. And then I got up there and, you know, drank and had a good time and partied. And it was amazing. And then to boot, when I left the next morning, I had to get down, drive all the way back to Bologna to the train station, because I was going to take a train to Rome. And so this guy told me, he goes, oh, there's a shortcut to the freeway, and follow me and I'll bring you to the beginning of the shortcut, and then you just follow that road, it'll come out on the freeway. I was like, cool. This is like at midnight or something, or not midnight, 2 in the morning or something after the party. So I follow him all the way to this place, and then it's like it's a farm road. It's not a real big paved road or anything. And so I'm like, well, haul ass. And not too far in, the road turned from shoddy pavement to actual dirt, and there was a drop. And when it did that, because I had already smashed the car, I already took a dive and stuff, it was damaged underneath. I didn't know about it. So then when it took off and it hit that dirt part, it went boom, and then the muffler disengaged from the header, right? No, not the header, but the header just right there. So all of a sudden it was going, and mind you, it's in the middle of the night in farmland. So you could hear me coming like I was an air raid. But I couldn't do anything. I was like, I can't do anything about that right now. So I just gassed it. And it was just all the way to the freeway. And then when I got on the freeway, I took off, and now it was dragging. So now it was dragging, and it had a rooster of sparks. I was looking in my mirror going, I can't stop. I got to make the train. People pulling up next to me, it's like 4 in the morning now, and they're going, yeah. I'm all, yeah, I know. So I'm, wow. And I get to my exit where I can slow down so the sparks will slow. And then, and right next to the train station is a cop station. The rental car place, of course, is a couple blocks away, and it's closed. So I was like, man, I ain't got time for this. So I just parked in the police parking lot. I put the key in the door, run to the train station. I literally have enough time to go through the turnstile, jump on the train, the door closes. So then I get all the way to Rome, and when I'm in Rome, I call the rental car agency and say, hey man, I had a problem with the car. Yeah, a little problem. And they go, what, the car we just gave you? And I go, yeah, the first one was stolen, and then this one I had a problem. And anyway, I left it at the train station. They're like, what? And I go, yeah. And they go, where? And I go, in the police parking. And they're like, what? I'm like, hey, sorry, there's no parking at the train station. You got to park. And they're like, oh. And I go, but hey, I got to catch I think I was actually flying out. So I go, but I got to catch a plane, so I'll see you later. Click. And later, they would bill me like $1,600 for the damage, which I thought was pretty good, being that I pretty much totaled that car. Brand new Fiat. But that was just one of many European adventures. But I really did like traveling in Europe. I continued to love it. I don't know when I'll go back. I'm retired now, but I should be able to make it, right? Anyway, we'll save the other stories for later. But my Nautica hoodie, I did. Oh, as a matter of fact, sailing. You know, I'll give you a couple of other short ones from this hoodie. Really, the whole sailing adventure, and not only the boat on the lake, but I once was a guide or whatever, and we had a charter where we took a group of students on a tall sailing ship, you know, like the old with all the 3 masts, like 86-foot schooner. And we took that thing for 2 weeks all around the islands of California, barbecuing off the fantail, swinging off the rope, and all that stuff. What a great time. If you ever get a chance to go on a schooner or a sailing adventure, man, do it. Although stay close to the coast. Yeah, great adventures. All right, man, well, that's it from Tales of the Hoodie. End of the series, this one. It's a little longer, I think. I think I got another series coming up. So stay tuned and keep watching. Have a good one.